we could turn on some shading, and we could see that we need an inner surface. The inner surface could be made in so many different ways. Let's try one approach of many. I go for, in this case, a blend curve. And the beauty with the blend curve is that it blends to whatever it is connected to. So blend curve, make a new one, and then I just snap to the edge here. Oops, that was a mistake. Delete. So let's redo that. Carefully picking the edge there. So we have it's hooked onto the surface, and you can see the hook there. So what I would like to do now is just place another point inside here. I will turn off the shading and go for top view, and now I will position this where I would like the inner surface to kind of bend in. And I'm careful not clicking on any surface here, but just being in a gray area. So by doing that, we could also see that it's a different edit point or blend point. Okay, so we have a curve that is blending in nicely there, and we could of course adjust the position if we prefer. So if I activate the middle, we have, oops, undo. So if I activate the middle symbol there, we could take this up a little bit. And that seems to be a bad idea. So undo, undo. Oh, maybe we could just change the arrow here a little bit. Just a tiny little adjustment here to kind of line it up a little bit. Okay, so when you're happy with your inner surface, and that means that you could do more adjustments. Of course, we might have a different kind of appearance of this inner surface. You could just go and adjust this as you like. But I'm happy with that. So let's pick nothing and make the inner surface. And at this point I will turn on the shading again, so it's easier for everybody to see what is happening. So let's go for a monorail. So the rail tool, which is maybe the most common tool of them all, is under surfaces. Right now it says bi-rail, but it changes the appearance here depending on what kind of settings you have. So here you see monorail, and that is what I would like to try now. So a monorail would like to have a generation curve, so I will use that as a starting point, and this will be the rail that it will kind of follow inwards here. Looks pretty nice. With the monorail, we're not governing this side here, which is both good and bad. The good part is that we're not doing any funny stuff with the surface. We're not destroying it or forcing it to do something that it doesn't really like to do. So it's not bumpy, it's really smooth. We got curvature here automatically, and that is because we had those settings already there. If you're unsure what kind of settings you have, you could of course reset and go back to default settings and start from that point instead. Okay, so if we redo that surface, we could go for the resetted starting point. So I have one generation curve and one monorail. And now it doesn't say anything about generation 1 here. So we need to remember to ask for smoothness. And the level is curvature that we would like to achieve here. For rail 1, it doesn't really matter. So in this case, I would prefer to have this slightly bigger. And with monorail, you could actually scale the other side here. So something like that, or you could also put in key in values here. So now we have a surface there that looks pretty nice. It goes smoothly inwards. And let's accept that. So accepting in Alias would be pick nothing. We could quickly examine this with the zebra shader, and we could see that it looks really smooth and nice. So it's flowing nicely over that edge. And remember, you could always check as well with the surface continuity tool. So, and it's also super happy, and that means we are happy. By the way, if we're happy, we should save. File, save as, and don't overwrite the old one, make a new one. So this would be number 10. Okay. Remember that we have at least three basic tools to check the boundary. This one, we also had the zebra shader, and time to make the inner surface a little bit smaller. So in this case, we need the curves again, at least one curve, and that is the tiny curve we have down there. I go for project again, and now we will just project on the small surface that we just did. And the setting is still all right. We're going in Y direction here. So that is nothing that we need to change there. We just read the prompt line, and it needs a surface. So we choose this surface, and then we would like to have that small curve for projection. First we choose the surfaces, and I forgot to click the Go button. Sorry. Now we could choose the curve to project. And we could have many curves to project, but I'm happy with that one. So I go for project, and it goes in Y direction. The curve layer could be turned off again to clean up. And now we could also trim this part. And if I go for trim, I'll leave a cross here and say keep, please, that piece. And now if we shade this with a simple shader, we have this appearance. Sometimes it's a little bit irritating with the grid, so let's turn off the grid here, so it's easier to work. Here we have a curve that we actually could go in and tweak and see if we would like to have a different design on this surface here. So here you have a possibility to change the angle a little bit on the direction of this blend curve, and because this is apparent, it will also change the appearance of the inner surface. But right now I just want to hide it, so I choose this curve and assign it to the curve layer. Okay, nice.